if you're like me, you use AI a lot. And so a lot of times you have a lot of chats going. You can't remember where information was stored. And so one of the things that Claude has done recently is called Claude Projects. And what it does is it lets you put all the information in one spot, and the information, memory, and everything can be stored. And so in today's session, we're going to walk through that process. So what we have here is basically a blank project, and you can see I've named it Ron's Classic Insurance just for purposes of this illustration. And we have a few things here. So you've got chat. They've also incorporated the look and feel of co-work into here, so you can select that there. And on the right here, we've got instructions, memory. So I talked a little bit about this before. The memory allows you to share a lot of this information, and it's super beneficial, from that perspective, because you don't have to keep prompting and getting the same information back. Everything is stored within this project. And then you can add additional context and additional information here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into here. I've got some different dummy information as it relates to the different files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these and I'm going to upload them into here. Oh, interesting. That file format is not supported. And so I'll have to try to get a new format for that one. But anyway, from a context perspective, you can kind of see that things have been loaded. So a few things that I went ahead and did was had it create some dummy requirements information. I asked it to create a test plan template, some sample test data, and then the image, which isn't working. But what I want it to do is I'll just say, please read all this information. Hey, Claude, please read all this information and make sure that you have a good understanding of it before we proceed to the next step. And so, this information is all together, it's all contained. And I've got different things that I've done. For example, I've got different skills that I built over time and different things. So I could pull that in if I wanted to. But I think what we want to do is I want it to essentially do a few things. I want it to take the requirements documents and I want it to basically develop a test plan. And I also wanted to take the requirements document and also create a series of test cases. So, that's pretty much what I want to do and want to talk through, this activity as it relates to this. So it's going through, it's making sure that it understands the information. You can also add different project information. You can share cross project information. If you had code, you could pull it in. As you can see, I've got different skills in here. So if we wanted to do the test plan from the requirements, we could do that. And it's got other skills as it relates to different things that I've done. So let's see what it has. Okay. I want to create a test, and from the template, I provide it. And as we're waiting, I hope this information is helpful. I know that it's helped me a lot in terms of being able to consolidate the information, and it's really been a game changer for me. So I've got a lot of projects that are sharing information and data, and I'm constantly creating new ones. And it really kind of helps me to know from a mindset perspective, oh, I created that project. I know that that chat is located in there. And so it just helps with the organization from that perspective. So it's basically going to take the test plan, and it looks like it's going to use the skill itself to kind of apply that. And then it's going to, provide the output from that perspective. But if we wanted to kind of go back while that's working, for example, here you can give it more instructions. So I think so what I'm doing here is I'm just putting in information so that the project understands, specific data. Here I'm going to say if you aren't clear about some, ask me clarifying questions. Okay, so you can put some information in there as it relates to that, and you can kind of update that. And then so let's see where we're at in this chat. So it's basically kind of doing that from a test plan perspective. And I'm going to say, I'm going to ask it, hey, Claude, I want you to review the requirements and I want you to start drafting the test cases for it and provide that output so that it can be reviewed. All right, so we're adding, additional information here, and that this is nice where you can kind of share the chat information across. And then I want to say, once the test cases, test plan, and test cases so we want to validate. Let's see how this is going to work. I'm kind of curious because I want to see how it's going to kind of handle that information. Okay, it looks like it's still kind of thinking. Okay, so this is pretty neat. I did ask, if it had any questions in the instructions to prompt for questions. So it basically has done that. So from a test cases perspective, I want them to essentially do both of them. So I'm going to select both. And essentially, I think for this one, I want at least the test cases and the traceability. skeleton. So it's asking me, we'll just put it in Python. So it's kind of going off and doing that work. Okay, so it's going through here. It's getting the information. It is working through creating the test cases. And now it actually just produced the test cases. So you can kind of see it's providing multiple information as it relates to not only the test case information, but some additional information is here. So I think we're just going to open this up. And one thing that I want to emphasize is that you really need to make sure, of course, that you're really validating, these test cases. So AI does a great job of creating a ton of test cases. The thing that I have some concerns about, and I do see it's prioritized. So, from that information or perspective, that is good at least, because we all know with risk-based testing, you have to prioritize your tests. You can't always execute everything from that standpoint. So it did do a good job of really mapping these out. It also kind of tied it to the requirements. So you've got, nice traceability. And then column D, it has not only unit integration, end-to-end security. So all those are good to see test cases from that perspective. And then it looks like it's got a summary. So it's even provided a summary of the requirements against the test cases. And so, this information is pretty well done at an initial glance. It certainly, would take me a long time, to figure all this out and put it in place. So I can see this, being super helpful and super, beneficial from that perspective. And it's also got traceability. So it's got a traceability matrix created, which is, really good from that perspective. And I also had it do some automation. So it's got information in terms of, different tests and things of that nature, which is, visible over here. And then it's kind of detailing out, those conditions and things like that. Now, the other thing that we had it do is that it was, going to build a test plan. So I think it's ideally you want to create the test plan first, and then you want to create the test cases. So it seems like it may be doing a bit of duplication of effort, but let's see what output it gives us, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so what we have is now the test plan has been generated. So it basically took a templated format and populated, the information in here. So it's got, details around what is being tested and validated. I really wanted to focus on the auto insurance part. So it's got test objectives, scope, what's tested, what's not. So it's not doing some of this out of scope, which is more downstream with the different things as it relates to like payment gateways and things like that. It's not testing older browser versions. It is referencing information. And here it's got, a description of the items and the different features, driver information, coverage, rating, compliance, performance, usability. Then it's got some things that it's not going to test. And so, and the different levels, etc. So it just kind of goes on. It's got entry exit criteria, which is nice, suspension and resumption. And then it's got, the test deliverables. It also has information around the test environment data, roles and responsibilities, which, kind of needs to be filled out from that perspective. But anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit around the concept of projects. I do find it super beneficial, super helpful. I feel like it's really helpful for a tester to kind of keep things organized and all in one place. So hopefully this information has been helpful. Please check back. I'll have additional Claude related tutorials, and I'll try to put it from a perspective of a tester because that's really my focus. And so I look forward to speaking to you at the next video. Thank you.